Salwa has a death in her. Okay, good evening and welcome to the Crestwood School Board Study Session, Monday, October 16, 2023. Call the session to order at 5:32 p.m. Mr. Secretary, can we get a roll call, please?
So trustee Fawaz is out. Trustee Saba?
Here.
Trustee Williamson?
Here.
Trustee Amon is here. Trustee Barry?
Here.
Madam President?
Here.
Mr. Baidoon is out. Give me form.
Okay. So first item on our agenda, Dr. Mosallam?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Board. So we have one item for the study session. This item is the site threat assessment. As the Board is aware, the state of Michigan had grant funding for all school districts to do a full site assessment. And this report was to be followed up with Mr. Awada, who will have a short presentation on this assessment. The positive thing with this, and I don't want to take too much thunder away from Mr. Awada, is that there were many things that were correct and we're doing well with, and there are some things that are recommendations, and Mr. Awada is going to go through that and then open it up for questions to the board. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Awada at this time.
Hi, Mr. Awada, how are you?
Hi.
You probably need to get in front of the microphone. Yeah, for,
And if you want to move around, just pull it out
Yeah.
and you can,
Yeah, really,
it should be a long enough cord where you should be able to move.
Okay, as I was saying, good evening, President Zayat, Dr. Mosallam, Dr. Lazar, trusted members of the board. I want to take this opportunity, because I rarely get to speak to you directly, and say thank you. Thank you for all you do for our children, our community, our schools. You are the pillar of support that we always look for when we need something for our schools, and you never say no. And I know sometimes we're in a thankless position, but being public servants, you make me proud being a member of this community, so thank you. I want to begin by saying Crestwood School District has been in the forefront of safety and security, not just for the immediate sense. The past 5 years, I know Dr. Mosallam coming in, that was a major focus and priority for him, as well as the board. So thank you for your ongoing support. I'd like to begin with the end in mind. And we went through a comprehensive site assessment for each one of our schools in the district. From Critical Response Group was the company that we retained to do a complete comprehensive assessment of all our safety and security protocols, hardware, technology and so forth. And beginning with the end in mind, they had very, very positive results that they shared with us overall. They stated, and I quote, "You are far ahead of many districts throughout the state of Michigan with all that you have put in place and continue evolving." And that was very commendable. As a team, we pride ourselves in that accomplishment. So with that said, I just want to zoom back up and start, and I did include this handout to all of you. We really predicate all that we do with school safety on prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. Everything that we're going to talk about today and everything that you will need to consider moving forward, all those will go back to prevention, protection, and mitigation, response, and recovery. Moving along those lines, all-encompassing, the plans will include physical security equipment and technology, school security personnel, security policies and procedures, site and building design, training exercises, and drills. That being said, I want to review real quick some takeaways or some precursors to consider when thinking about school safety and security. That each school within the Crestwood School District is unique. There is no specific one-size-fits-all. As a district, we pride ourselves in taking a system-wide approach to all that we do with safety and security, and that really helps with scaffolding and making sure that we are working with all components. There's some overlay, and they complement one another. The district has multidisciplinary teams at each of the buildings. That crisis management team will continue to evolve their emergency operations plans and moving forward and making sure that their buildings are prepared to prevent, mitigate, and respond to emergencies.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure thing.
Okay. So all of our sites do have emergency plans that they're following and they're aware of? Because I see some deficiencies. I just want to make sure that we've updated since we've gotten this report.
Absolutely. And I will go over some of those updates
Okay.
with you next. But every school building has an emergency operations plan, which is in full alignment with the Michigan State Police expectations and companion document that they provided for us in developing those plans. Those plans are very comprehensive, and they consider everything from earthquakes to hazardous waste
Right, right.
spills and so forth and so on. So they're
Okay.
very comprehensive in nature, and they're a work in progress. We have to understand that as well. They're not perfect, but they are in place and fully operational.
Thank you.
So the Crestwood School District will continue taking a layered approach to all safety and security measures that we put in place moving forward. So to review, and this speaks, Trustee Berry, to your comment, to speak to where we're at, I want to just talk about where we were at last year and where we are this year. This report, again, was provided to us in March,
Right.
and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that they had in place for us there. So one of the things regarding prevention, it really looked at establishing and train medical emergency response teams in each of our buildings, 2 full-time nurses in district, allowing for full service response. 2023, I'm proud to say that all building it's in place and fully operational. So every building does have a medical emergency response unit assigned to them, and they are able to readily respond to any medical emergencies. In 2022, it stated all building administrators and SCL staff are receiving level 1 and level 2 CSTAG training, which is, again, comprehensive school threat assessment guidelines training. I'm proud to say that we have over 30 members, administrators, and staff that have been fully trained level 1 and level 2 in comprehensive threat assessment.
One more question, if I may.
Sure.
Sorry. So do you lead this whole process?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
you're
So
following through on it?
I was, so proud of our administrators and our staff at the end of last year, a very busy time of year, and they made it a point to, because this is both asynchronous learning for them and synchronous. They have about 6 hours of asynchronous learning, and then they have to take an exam to get their level 1 certificate. Then they have to go through a second layer of that and get a final exam before they are fully certified as CSTAG certified. All building administrators, so that was completed in March. I added another additional refresher course this September where we revisited, and that is fully implemented in all of our buildings across the district.
Awesome.
In regards to protection and mitigation, all instructional and non-instructional staff received ALICE training last year. So we did have some of the commentary that some of our non-instructional staff did not receive the ALICE training. We then made sure that they did. Dr. Lazar allowed us to pay them to learn after hours, and we provided the ALICE training. For this year, it's still in process for an additional review. There has been some transitioning at the Dearborn Heights Police Department. I think we have someone to go to now, so we can schedule that. and continue our learning and our partnership with the Dearborn Heights Police Department. Again, one district SRO and 3 security guards at CHS and RMS, and 1 security guard at each elementary school. That continues to be the norm. We are in a transition with our SRO. The SRO that was assigned here transitioned to, I believe, the Attorney General's office, and we are in process of getting a replacement,
So we are getting one.
I believe. I cross my fingers and hope every day. The go bags located at the Dearborn Heights Fire and Police Departments, I will have those updated go bags by the end of October. And I just want to take a quick minute. Part of the site assessments, another complementary piece to that was we had every one of our buildings mapped. We had every one of our buildings mapped with the exception of the preschool. And I'll just give you a quick example of what those maps look like. And this was this gives us now a detailed map of all the individual buildings, all the room numbers. Every single office has been marked and identified. And what these CRG maps will do is they will be shared with all the local and county first responders. And they will have these in a digital database that they can reference in case, God forbid, they have to respond to a medical or otherwise emergency. Yes, Mr. Williams?
Question. How easy are those maps to update? Do we have to pay to get updated if any of the recommended changes happens to change a map?
Great question, thank you. So these have been like triple proofed. So they gave us the initial draft. We went back and we worked with our head custodians and our administration. We went and identified specific changes that they wanted incorporated into the maps, which we then went and we put into place. So they went back, they made the changes, we submitted them again for a final draft, and everything was confirmed by the building administration and head custodian, who went room to room and verified that they covered every door, every room, every office.
Right, but if we change something in there, so it can be changed.
Yes, we can submit, we have a year to make any amendments that we need to, and then maybe there's a nominal cost that goes along with it if we need to do something in the future. But our Crestwood, or our CHBC, early childhood program, they are going to allow us to make the construction changes, and we can just submit the proofs to them, and they'll do that for complimentary. Sorry. Yeah, if you don't mind. But every school is now updated 110%, and even the new additions have been added with the correct rooms. Okay, going back to the night lock, last year we were in process of putting the night locks in all the buildings. That has been completed in all of the buildings, the exception being the Crestwood Early Childhood Center, and also a couple spots we overlooked, which is the Crestwood High School cafeteria, but that's in process of being completed as well. So these night locks are in every classroom throughout the building, in every office throughout the building. So that's an added layer of security internally in our classrooms and in our buildings. Mr. President Elziat?
Quick question regarding the night locks. So when the night lock is activated and first responders want to get into the classroom, how do they do that?
So there's a special tool that we actually shared with our first responders during a tabletop exercise that we also have in each of their go bags as well. It's a tool that slips under the door and it pops the night lock.
So the first responder has to have
They
the night
do
lock
have
with
to
them
have them.
open
They're
it?
in their go bags in addition to the keys. And now I will be able to provide updated mapping of the buildings as well. So,
Thank you.
sure thing. Any other questions? Okay. So the centralized camera system accessible by district administration and security personnel, this is ongoing, and I want to say special thanks to Mr. David Green, who does such a tremendous job in overseeing all of the many things that we do with technology here. And don't cut yourself short, Mr. Green. You are an asset to our district, and thank you. Enhancing district communication through the installation of a digital repeater, programming, and
I do have-
calibrating district walkie-talkies.
Sorry, I do have one question,
Sure.
if I may. You talked about the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we were deficient in certain areas at the high school. Were those ever added?
I'm going to say that we're in flux right now with a couple things, and the installation of new cameras is in process, as I do believe, in the new buildings, the new center areas. And we have also had conversations about the dead spots, not only at the high school, but also some of the exterior cameras at the elementaries and where they're going to be positioned. And I know Mr. Green is working on that vigilantly, and we're trying to, bring it to a quick solution.
And are we going to have where the police department has access? Or are we holding
Well-
off on that, or what are we doing?
When we last spoke with the police department, it was something that we were considering to see if it was even possible that our frequency was on their same frequency, because they have a restricted bandwidth. So that's something that we can further explore, but I'm going to say I don't know right now
Okay.
if it's even possible that we can match up our systems.
Is it because we're outdated, or is it because we need to update, or?
Well, it's because they have a special channel for all their business that can't be, maybe isn't in alignment, but it could be. I mean, I'm not going to say absolutely not, but it's a possibility. I just have to explore it further.
Okay, thank you.
Because we did speak about it, and there has to be some things that work out that we really have to get into the nuts and bolts with Mr. Green and their IT person to see if that's even possible. But we are not going to stop trying, that's for sure. So the digital repeater was installed at the end of last year. We had all the radios updated and programmed. Now each individual building has their own specific channel that they can communicate within the building, and also they have a direct channel to communicate with the board office. We have an emergency channel where if something were to happen, the board office would have command and control over all, each and every one of the buildings. They would have the capability to reach the administrator and collaborate with the administrator directly. So that's a great piece. We are adding additional walkie-talkies to our custodial staff as well. They're in process, and you might see a PO come across your desk for some battery replacements, 4 additional walkie-talkies to Hillcrest and the custodial staff as well. Critical response group, and again, the site maps, which I brought to your attention, they did finalize the site maps, and these are being shared again with local and county first responders, so they will have electronic record of that. The OK to Say is ongoing, as is the suicide prevention hotline. We continue promoting Navigate 360 as our social emotional learning platform across K-12 classrooms. So, and the response and recovery section of that would be school, emergency operations plan, the crisis teams, and the partnerships with local and county first responders. As I scroll up, now, what I simply took were the recommendations that were provided in the 37-page document. I tried to find the commonalities and associate them with, the access control, looking at outdoor protective measures, indoor protective measures, and different, and tried to group them together. Now, what the hard part is for this body to determine how they would like to move forward, or if they would like to add any additional or remove any additional. As I preface the entire presentation, we are in a sound footing right now. So anything moving forward is just going to strengthen our position further. And, you know, I'm very proud of our district and the board and all that we have accomplished thus far. And these are some things that we really need to consider moving forward. This is my personal clustering and scheduling, but it's something that the board can have further conversation and dialogue about and determine what the best route forward would be.
Can I ask
So,
some questions?
you know, these are directly from the site assessment that was provided to you. And these are some things that I felt, you know, it would be a proper approach to it, but I'm not in that position to make that final determination, as the board and Dr. Masalam will provide further leadership in that department.
Thank you. We have questions from the board?
So I was wondering about the PA system. You said that you would like to upgrade it. So if there was, God forbid, a situation, does the PA work where they can hear them inside and outside the building now, or are we waiting?
So the PA system does not work to the extent that it needs to work outside the buildings. So if we were in a soft lockdown per se, there was imminent danger in the surrounding neighborhood, and there was a PA call, it would not be heard as clearly as needed. And this is feedback from the administrators at some of the buildings.
So do you have a budget that you can, is there a budget assigned to this?
There is not a budget assigned to it because we were holding off on all these projects as we completed the classrooms and the new facilities.
Okay.
Because of all these projects, if we started them, we're gonna have to redo them. We also are in the process of doing an entire infrastructure analysis, so that would be part of that entire infrastructure analysis.
What about money from the 97 per pupil grant, the safety
I have,
security one?
Yeah, we just had, last week, I know Ms. Jawad Zainab Beydoun attended a 31 AA conference, and the 31 AA is now going to be providing a good chunk of funds, I hope, per student pupil.
$220.
Yeah, so that could really help us with our safety and security initiatives, and it's earmarked for just that as well. So we'll be pursuing that.
Just pay attention to, only because I know, pay attention to spending 50% of it on mental, social, emotional. And then once your 50% is met, you can spend the remainder of the 50% if you want on security. Trustee Sabo.
Mr. Awada, thank you for everything you put here. I got a question.
Sure.
When it comes to the security system and the camera systems, I know that we've had some issues in the past with the older systems, and I know we've been waiting on some updates before we can update the entire system, and I know that you were working on some bids, or Ms. Morgan was working on some bids in the past. So thank you for that. I do see one of the recommendations here for 2026, 2027. Fencing at all elementary buildings around the entire elementary?
The playground areas, currently, the playground areas, again, aren't completely fenced in, which, again, you know, that's a costly endeavor, I understand, but it's very needed. And this is coming from the elementary administrators. They do not want students meandering off, you know, 5-, 6-year-olds that lose their way, can easily end up outside of the playground boundaries in the street and so forth, and presents a, you know, a formidable danger there.
So with the fencing, no fencing was done because of all the expansions.
Well, regardless, I mean, how many elementary schools around us have a direct fence to their playground attached to their school?
Not all of them are in need. I think Highview is the one that is best situated.
Not just Crestwood schools.
Oh,
Have you done?
That I would have.
Yeah, it's not, forget the cost. I don't want this to be about cost, because it should never be about cost with safety.
Right.
But it's just more of a, look, if something's gonna happen outside, God forbid, I don't think there's anything anybody can do to prevent it except law enforcement having some kind of tip.
Right.
You know, I think we're in a good position with the buildings, but this is a 24-hour day job for everybody. This is not something you go through a training once a year, right? I think you guys have really got to implement a 3, 4, 5-tier training where there's constant, you know, testing. And in that sense, you know, it should be the building principal who's doing it as often as possible, and then you testing the building principals as often as possible. This is not something you can let down on. And I hate to let people live like that, but that's the world we live in today.
Absolutely.
I'm referring to the fencing because I don't see what it's going to do, that's all. To put fencing around an elementary school is gonna make it look like a compound, and I don't want that, okay?
And appreciating that position, you know, with the safety and security, they always talk about perimeter as being part of the first line of defense and prevention. Not only are we talking about the doors and the access points to the building, but the perimeter being the, and just think worst case scenario, God forbid, a car trying to ram their
Sure.
way through. And there's a group of
Kids.
kids
God
out in
forbid,
the playground, God forbid. But it's,
That I
again,
can see, I can understand that, but I'm thinking of Kinlock, the playground's in the back, between the, you know, the bus route and the homes behind it, and Crestwood to the east of it, and another field to the west of it. You know, I think we need to be strategic when we do that. I'm okay with that. Like, if you told me we're doing it because we don't want a car to run rampant and run off the road, and 100% agree with you,
Right.
okay? But to make it look like a compound for these kids,
you know,
you know, this is not New York City,
Yeah.
right? I hate to say it, I'm not picking on any specific city, but I've seen them in New York City schools where it is a compound. You literally, it's like a barbed wire fence all the way around. I don't want that.
So any areas that need a ballard, we're putting in ballards. Those will stop
Yes.
vehicles. The elementary school that does need a fence, but we're still working on some things, this is why we have not gone that route, would be Hillcrest, just for the back of the school.
Yes.
Because it goes back to the woods in the Heinz Park area.
Correct.
That's on our top priority right now. A lot of these things is when the site assessment team came in, you know, they would ask principals questions, and a lot of times, you know, schools will give, this is what I'd like to see, so on and so forth. But we take it all, so that when we do a budget breakdown for moving forward and next steps, because the thing about this is, it's also, we don't wanna do this here and then do this here. We wanna have a systemized plan.
Correct.
And now that we have those expansions done, and then hopefully with the early childhood center being done this summer, we can move forward with that, but then we have to look at a cost structure. And that'll also come in with our infrastructure review with what we're doing with French and Associates.
Yeah.
So it's all gonna intertwine with one another.
I think the one I do agree with you 100% on is Hillcrest. Looking back at those woods, that is,
Yeah.
I understand that. Again, I'm one person who's just voicing an opinion, and it can be changed. I'm not saying I'm, you know, hard line in cement. This is a soft line in the sand. We can move it. But I just don't see that as really necessary, to be honest with you.
Trustee?
Nadia?
Speaking on that, do they have, like, okay, if the ball is kicked into the street and such, do the kids go out there? Is there adults to catch it? I mean, I know in Dearborn, every school has fencing.
No, they don't.
The majority that I've been at, yeah, Miller,
Yeah, but not all of
Potter.
them do. They don't. There's a lot that don't.
Name me one of them.
Which one is that? Howard doesn't, Lindbergh doesn't?
Howard does. I
No,
go
not
there.
all the way around? No, they
Yeah.
don't. It's open.
I go there for a class every Wednesday.
The majority of schools that I know do
Yeah.
have fencing. The thing I want to speak back to what Dr. Masalam stated, these are principal observations and requests because they've had those kind of situations where a ball is kicked into the street and the student does pursue that out into the street. Thank God it's a dead end.
Yeah.
Right.
But still, you know, timing is everything, and for,
You're talking about the 4-foot fencing, not the
right,
the
right.
8-foot fence with 4 feet of barbed wire is what I'm referring to.
In
Yeah.
our,
No, the
in our
4-foot
three
fencing.
elementary schools, where the playgrounds are in all three of our elementary schools are in the back of the schools. The only one that is a concern to me, like I said, is Hillcrest, because of also where the parking is. Highview is in the back. It's bordered by homes. And Kinlock, as you said, is in the back. It's bordered by big fields and homes. So none of our schools, none of our elementary schools are like Riverside where you're on a main road. And usually when you see a fenced in for a school, it's when there's a main road. And usually, so what you want to do is in those areas where there's the parking lot, you want to put ballards, because then that protects from cars coming over. So that's what we're looking at right now. Because again, it comes down to where is the high risk and the high need.
So some school boards have even made decisions to like not even lock their gates around their playgrounds because they want that, you know, community schools feel. And I personally, I mean, I like that too. I mean, if school's in session and the kids are out, there's enough adults I know that are out there watching, and I mean, you know, they're going outside 2-3 times a day. So, you know, the Hillcrest thing, I guess I never thought about that, what's behind there, just like Trustee Sava said, but.
Deep drop, not just a deep drop, anybody can walk up there, that's the scary part.
And,
I mean, that's a whole nother,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother reason.
and hopefully that's going to be resolved very soon,
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, any other questions?
No?
I would just like to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time and effort in this, and I personally know that it's not easy, but you did a great job, Rodwin.
How would
we're
you
glad you're-
personally know?
You're doing an amazing job.
I have 36
Mr.
schools.
Thank you.
to do
Thank
this
you,
on.
Mr.
Pleasure
Arlotta.
Thank you, Mr.
stuff.
Arlotta.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, too.
Thank you. Madam President, that's all I have for the study session.
Okay, so
Is there any way we can go into a closed session to catch up on some of that personnel stuff that we received?
some of what?
The personnel stuff?
Are the personnel here?
No, it's stuff that we received. I don't think they need to be here.
Yeah, they do.
No,
They-
it's not about, it's just giving us updates.
No,
Huh? It's not a, what do you mean, no?
you can't go in a closed session to
It's,
discuss something that has to do.
it's stuff that we received.
Okay, anybody want to make the motion?
It's stuff that we received. When you're at a nail salon and somebody tells you this and that, I mean, it's stuff that we already received. It's not nothing that, it's not mentioning names because we don't even know who the person is. I
And
had
we
to
don't
find
need
out
a
from
closed
parent.
session. You can
Okay, so,
discuss it.
okay. So then we'll do it in open session. Are you okay with that?
It matters what the question is. I
The
can,
question is, I know that we received something about Kinlock. Can you give us an update?
it's being investigated, and we're finalizing everything with the attorney.
Okay, so something is happening.
Yep, there will be an update to the board tomorrow.
Okay, and there was another thing. Was it today that I read it? There was something else. I didn't write it down when I was going through. All right, I guess when I think of it, but I just wanted an update on that stuff.
Okay, I think we're done with closed session. Can we make a, I'm sorry, study session? Can we?
Motion to adjourn study session?
Motion to adjourn study session by trustee Sava, supported by trustee Amen. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:05. We'll be back at 7 PM for our regular board meeting.